I'm just waiting for the confirmation to make sure we're live so we can get started. Okay, I just received a text. So we are live. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Adriana Crossley. I'm the Deputy Director for the Autism Society of Texas, and we are doing our presentation on ABA skills for teenagers and adults. So we have an amazing team of presenters. We're very, very happy to have all of you. We are going to start with our first presenter. Our presenter is Jessica Quintanilla. Jessica graduated, oh no, Dr. Laura Estep. Yes, I already had it in my mind set up, but thanks for reminding me. Dr. Laura Estep is an assistant professor of practice at the Department of Special Education at UT, teaching within the Autism and Early Childhood programs. She's a doctoral level board certified behavioral analyst and remains active in a clinical practice serving as a clinical director for Aspire. Aspire provides primarily home and community-based services for individuals with autism of all ages. And Aspire is a huge supporter of Autism Society of Texas. It's very involved in the community. We're really happy to have you. And we also work with Dr. Estep in a lot of collaborations. We have our they present, they're just presenting our groups, they prepare the presentations. We also have Teen Connect and Adult Connect programs that are virtual meetings. So we have a lot of collaborations going on, and we're really happy to have you, Dr. Laura. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. All right. So I am going to be sort of introing us here in what ABA can look like in teenagers and adults, because there is a little bit of a shift. But what I do want to start by talking about is demystifying ABA a little bit. I think when you hear the term ABA, I think a lot of people have an image of what that looks like. A lot of times it is very intensive, it's maybe clinic-based, a lot of times focused on younger individuals, but ABA is so much bigger than that. So I like to kind of start here. ABA is really an umbrella term. It encompasses a huge range of different strategies that are all different evidence-based practices. So even working on one type of skill, we have a whole bunch of different strategies we can pull from our toolbox to try and address that skill. So it can look a lot of different ways. It is focused, of course, on behavioral change. So we want to increase those positive behaviors and decrease anything that's undesired. But I also want to say, like, we can do ABA on ourselves. We can do it in so many contexts. So if we're just looking to make behavior change using one of these evidence-based practices, that's really what we're talking about. And a lot of it is focused on changing those environmental variables. So what is it that is maybe causing me to act a certain way and or reinforcing that? And how can I set up a system? I know a lot of individuals, when they do goal setting, they're making those contingencies for themselves. So this really is, again, a lot of possible strategies that can be used in so many different populations and settings. So when I meet a teacher who has a well-run classroom, they're doing tons of ABA. If you go to a business where that business is really well run, that company is actually using a lot of ABA strategies as well. They may just not call it that. So I like to kind of start by thinking of ABA as really a broader thing that can be applied in a lot of different ways, including with teens and adults. So when we're talking about shifting this to working with teens or adults, there's a little bit of a change in focus, and it does depend on the individual greatly. But we do shift a lot of our focus to more executive functioning skills, self-advocacy skills. So for me, a few of the clients that I've continued to work with, we've started to talk about goal setting. Like my 15-year-old, we're talking about what are your goals? Do you want to live alone? Do you want to live with other people? What type of job do you think you might want someday? Would you like to drive, all these different things that are coming with becoming an adult soon. And then we're breaking that down. Well, what does that mean? If you want to drive, what goes into being able to drive? Or if you want to live alone, what skills do you need to be able to live alone? And so we're really going through setting goals, but also breaking down those tasks. Self-advocacy is really important, and these don't start in teenager and adulthood, but we do tend to shift our focus heavier at that time. But self-advocacy as well, that is a huge change when you hit 18 and your parents can't do it all for you anymore, right? If you want support or services, you need to ask for those. So those types of skills are really important to work on. In my role here at UT, I had a autistic doc student whose dissertation was on self-advocacy skills in autistic adults who attend university. And he was really looking at what are all the different skills you need to request accommodations. How do you get those set up from the accommodations office, but then also how do you talk about those with a professor and go tell them what you need for them in order to support you in their course? What if that professor isn't receptive to that, which does happen? Not everyone is receptive in universities or in workplaces to accommodation requests. What do you do in that sense? So really breaking down those skills of self-advocacy and what you need to be able to do to get those needs met. So that's a skill that's really important, being able to understand what autism is, what your strengths are, what supports you need, and how to ask for those. A lot of specific skills come up depending, again, on the individual needs of that person. So if they're going into higher education or employment, being able to interview, engage with colleagues or peers at work, again, those accommodations, all of that getting set up in place. And then a lot of focus on independence. Again, looking very different, could be things like transportation, finances, household tasks, or even going into a supported living facility. You know, what types of independent skills with self-care does that individual need to learn in order to be as successful as they can in that context? The social and leisure skills needed change as well and shift as you go into adulthood. There's a lot of new context. There's a lot of new social rules. If you are going into an employment or assisted living or anything, there's going to be new context that you need to be able to apply those skills within. So a lot of these skills, they're not absent when we're younger, but when we go into that teenage and adulthood years, we do tend to have a much stronger focus on these. The other piece that does shift is a lot of times the intensity. Again, very focused on the individual here. Some individuals still require a large amount of support to be learning skills. Others need some consultation, right? Maybe they have someone they meet with once a month to talk about a skill that's coming up, or as needed basis. So I have a job interview, I could use some coaching, right? And seeking out ABA support for that. So really that intensity can change as well. Some of the common strategies you'll come across, task analysis and chaining. This is really just taking a complex skill and breaking it down to help you teach it. So that's what part of what we did, both actually 1 and 2 for my doc students' dissertation on self-advocacy. We looked at what goes into going to the accommodations office and asking for accommodations. What do you need to do? And we kind of tried to list that out in steps that we then used video modeling to help teach. So then we could show a sample of what it would look like to go into that office and request what you need and get those supports put in place. So those are really common things that you might see. Behavior skills training, we use this a lot in a lot of different contexts as well, where we're just talking about a skill, modeling it, demonstrating it, practicing that role play and rehearsal, and then providing feedback. It's a very convenient way to kind of learn new skills. And with a lot of skills we're teaching in teenager and adulthood, we're talking about naturalistic approaches. We want to work on the employment skills in an employment setting. We want to work on the self-care skills in a self-care setting. So we really want to do those within the context in which they're already occurring so that those skills are as beneficial as possible. And I've mentioned this a little bit throughout, but I just wanted to kind of end with the importance of providing all services really, but especially in teenager and adulthood, person-centered care. And what we're talking about here is going through strengths, skills, challenges, all of those things that really are a part of that person, and coming up with long-term goals across the different domains. So what are the things that I have as strengths that can help me along this journey, but also what are the challenges I'm encountering and the supports I need in order to succeed, and the skills that are there and the skills that are missing so that we can kind of fill in those gaps. Once we have those goals, that's where we can then zero in on what skills are needed to achieve those goals and use some of those strategies. Again, we have a whole toolbox we can pull from within ABA in intensive settings or in very consultative bases as well. All right. That is all I have to start us off. I'm going to pass the mic over, well, Jess, but I think Adriana's going to introduce her.
Yes, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you sharing that list of things because this is, I know teenagers that are working on that specific list of things to and skills, and it's also great for ideas, like if you're like what can my kid be working on at this age, so that's really helpful. Our next presenter is Jessica Quintanilla. Jessica graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a Master's of Education in Autism and Developmental Disabilities in 2013. She is a board certified behavioral analyst and has experience working with people with disabilities all ages. She oversees the crisis prevention training, intakes and assessments, social skills training at Central Texas Autism Center, CTAC. That's another center that we collaborate with many times. CTAC serves people on the autism spectrum and helps support them to reach their full potential. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Can you guys see it, the screen okay? Did I make it work
See
or?
the screen, but it's still not full screen.
Okay. Give me just 1 second to
Yes, yes.
upload.
Take your time. We're live, so we know these kind of things are gonna happen when we're sharing our screens, and but we are, yeah, we're really excited, and we get a lot of parents reaching out for these kind of services for teenagers and adults, especially like transitioning into adulthood, like as they leave high school. Sometimes it's hard for them to find their place, right? We wish they all had like a path or like a, a program, but many times that doesn't happen. I think you are almost there, uh, Jessica. Um, but yes, the other thing that we see is that many times their first experience out of high school, either at an employment or at higher education, it's not really a positive experience, and then they don't want to try again. So having a therapist that can help them process what happened, and hey, we got it.
Yeah.
That's great. We can. I don't want to waste more time. I know we have so much great information. If you want to go ahead, Jessica, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we talking a little bit about ABA and social skills with teens and adults with autism? And so for the past, I don't know, couple of years, I started running a social group who definitely inspired me to very deep dive into how to teach people on the spectrum specific skills. And I mean, it all kind of started with like, how do we first develop like friendships? Because friendships really help support in so many different things, such as like a sense of belonging, some having supports, friendships can definitely help. So anyway, these kids really inspired me, and we started this coffee shop, and we called it BBG. It was called Bridges Baked Goods, and it was like 4 or 5 teenagers, and so we did it every Friday, and they were so excited to like collaborate and be together and do all these things. But then I kind of noticed, okay, I could utilize the principles of ABA to teach these group of kids. But I also noticed the kind of barriers that prevented them from succeeding. Succeeding meaning outside the like clinical setting. Like, what are some things that some impacts that are going to make it hard to be independent, or make it hard to work in a group, or make it hard to communicate their wants and needs. So that really kind of just inspired working more deeply in creating social skills and groups of different ages and a variety of different needs. So a lot that what we do at CTAC, I mean, so many things, but is offer like one-on-one therapy for all ages. So we don't really focus on any specific age. It's just whoever needs support, come on in and we can help them. It does start with a diagnosis a lot of times to receive ABA through therapy. One cool thing though is in Massachusetts, now they cover ABA for people with Down syndrome. And so I think that's a really cool, and it opens the doors to, something that Laura said about like first, like it's the principles of ABA that we could utilize across the lifespan for many individuals. But we know that it's an effective um, 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 behavioral philosophy and treatment for people on the spectrum. So we also focus on teaching the kids in the social skills group in one-on-one to understand their diagnosis and how that impacts in social relationships, social communication, and rigidity of like thought, behavior, restricted repetitive behaviors. And so because we know it's a spectrum, you can have a social relationship area where you're significantly impaired, but rigidity of thought could be mildly impaired, and social communication could be somewhere kind of in the middle. And so understanding that as a clinician, being able to help our adolescents and adults understand their diagnosis too, so then that can help with self-advocacy, etc. So yeah, in general, ABA could offer that, specifically helping with daily living skills, what Laura said, utilizing one-on-one therapy if it's intensive, or 1 or 2 hours a week, depending on what they need and their level of care, and generalizing all that to the home environment. As well as having some parent collaboration where we meet with parents weekly so that we get their perspective on their concerns and their children, as well as our perspective, and come together to meet the goals of the adolescent and adult. And they're in the meetings with us, really learning and wanting to know what their goals are for the future. So in terms of social skills groups, we it kind of depends, in terms of like what their group is going to look like. But we offer a variety of like curriculums, like preparing for life, social skills training, essentials for living. There's also peers from UCLA, which is a social skills group that's like 1.5 hours per week for 14 weeks. And there's like a group of parents that are working together and a group of kids that are working together. And they're working on a variety of skills, such as like working in groups, engaging in conversations, understanding social skills, social cues, hygiene, dating, friendships, dealing with anxiety and anger and stressful situations, and more. There's like how to deal with like or understand like when to call 911, what's an emergency. So many different concepts that could be taught utilizing those principles of ABA in a social skills group setting, in a one-on-one setting, whatever kind of meets their needs to help them be successful out, in their future, in their real world, essentially, at home, wherever they're going to work, in schools, and so in a variety of different areas. And so, let's see, where's the last page? Click, click, click. There it goes. Okay, so one thing I did wanted to add is is how ABA is used and how it provides so much positive benefits for teens and adults with ASD. So I put down some examples of some research articles that I have read and like to use, and I work a lot with insurance as well. I mean, I work in a clinic setting, and I'm happy and thrilled that insurance is providing, because it's very expensive, through medical necessity. So if you have a diagnosis, you can seek out ABA services for an individual with autism. Um, however, sometimes it can be very challenging to get resources and get access to therapy because it's expensive. Also even harder for teens and adults who a lot of the research is focused on early intervention. And it does look, different because their goals are different. Whatever they're working on may be different. However, whatever they're working on, decreasing stress or increasing those communication and social skills, so that there's less likelihood of like depression and anxiety, can be very profound and beneficial to adolescents and adults. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I use this for insurance purposes as well and be like, hey, teens and adults can definitely benefit significantly from this therapy. So I think yeah, I thought it was helpful to share with you guys. And I think that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions yet in that they sent me, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about what you were mentioning, the research. In many times, families get services denied by their insurance. So sending these research studies could be helpful for them. So we can probably send the link so families can have access. That's something they can send directly to the insurance. And uh, I know many times when it comes to teenagers and adults, we have to go through those appeal processes and like give more information, and it becomes a little bit more challenging to get the services. Funding is always something that comes up, right? Whenever we're talking about services. Besides insurance, is there any other funding that you have that you use? I know maybe Texas Workforce Commission or other types of fundings that just general questions. Since we're talking about that, I don't know if any of you has
You
ideas.
know, I have a family friend who has Down syndrome, and he put his name on class. So it's like a waiver program that provides like funding after a certain, after 18. So it's through like Social Security. Um, and so, which unfortunately you do have to put your name, like when your child's born, it feels like. But those funds are very beneficial to help pay for therapies such as like ABA or like speech or whatever kind of, whatever needs you have, or respite or anything supports that way. If anyone has any children that with disabilities or anything, they can put their name on that waiver program, and I can send you the link. I think that's helpful for future. But in terms of like, yeah, like if you have an insurance that can provide most of the costs, that's helpful. Um, and Medicaid covers, now for ABA. It's tricky with certain providers don't accept it based on certain, criteria. But, we're getting somewhere, hopefully. But those are kind of some of the resources. I know um, what is it, ALIDA, the local disability. Yeah, they also kind of help and support in some areas.
Yes, thank you. We always, that's something that we always do in every email, but we're responding to families if they qualify or they should be in a list. We always include the links, like this is the phone number, this is the link. So that's something that for our information and referrals, we always try to add to every email just in case, because we do see cases where the kids get to be adults or be teenagers and they've never were in a list, so it's really hard to get services from those programs from class HCS. So That's definitely a great point. And we're going to continue, and this is really exciting. We have our next guest, and is our board president for the Autism Society of Texas. So we're very excited to have somebody from our team. Rany Thommen Moser. It's our board president, and she's also a board certified behavioral analyst. Currently manages the Texana Cafe, which is part of the Texana Center, the local IDD authority in Fort Bend. We were just talking about the LIRA, so this is the local LIRA, and this is one of the best LIRAs you can see in the state. So it's a great example for a LIRA. It also covers surrounding counties in the Houston area. Texana Cafe serves as a training ground for adults with autism and other neurodiversities to learn meaningful employment skills. Thank you so much, Rany, for being here. We appreciate you joining.
Thank you so much. I'm just confirming you can see my
Yes.
share. Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. As Adriana said, I manage Texana Cafe, which is part of Texana Center, which is the local LIDA that Jessica was referring to. And I didn't plan on throwing this in, but I will now since we're talking about funding and why LIDAs are so important. So fun fact, the very first intern I hired here at Texana Cafe, her name is Caitlin Handley. And if you're not up to date with advocacy or haven't been involved legislatively, or if you have, you might have heard her name because this past legislative session, Caitlin and her family passed a very important bill, HB 1188, that was renamed the Caitlin Handley Act, and that requires that anyone with a diagnosis of a special need that has an IEP in school, the school district must inform the family of their local IDD authority. And it's so important because as the regulations exist in previously, schools were not required to inform families of their LIDA until the age of 14. And many times that didn't even happen. And Jessica mentioned the long waiting period. So we're upwards of 15 years of a wait. And so that's just a long time of missed services. So the sooner families know about their local IDD authority, the sooner they will receive services, such as what we have at Texana. So Texana has definitely been, while the cafe is in a newer stage, Texana has been around for over 25 years. And as Adriana said, just a wonderful reputation in Texas in that it's many times the first to provide certain types of services, including ABA. It was the first in our state, and other LIDAs have followed suit. So we're very proud of the work that we do. And one such example is Texana Cafe. We are 3 years old. We'll be 4 years in 2026, and we are a supported employment setting that specifically hires adults with autism or other neurodiversities. And it really is a magical place. If you ever have time to come visit us, you will find that it is worth your while because it's just the staff are great, the interns. Our cafe interns, that's the title of our individuals that we hire who have neurodiversities. They are proud of the work that they do here every day, and it's just a great model for others to use. So with that, I will continue. We are located in Fulshire, Texas, so just about an hour away from Houston. And we are open Tuesday through Saturday for both breakfast and lunch. But before I get into all the bullet points and all of those things, you have to, I mean, just visually, you have to know that the food is really, really good. So we've taken just as much effort into the food that we are putting out there as the training we are offering to individuals. They are exceptional people, and the food is also exceptional. Everything is, we serve sandwiches and soups and salads and lots of desserts, All of the desserts and pastries are made from scratch. All of the different spreads that are on the sandwiches are made in-house. And we just felt it was important to do that because not everyone that comes into our cafe knows that there is a special mission served. People come in because they're hungry or they drive by and they see a sign. And so it's really something to be proud about. So how do we do what we do and where does the magic come from? So we have a safe environment. That's important to say. We have myself, a board certified behavior analyst. I also have other full-time staff. They're known as cafe coordinators who help supervise and help with their training. So 99.9% of the interns that come to us have never held a job. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety that accompanies them when they start with us because maybe they have tried to secure a job and it didn't end well because they didn't have the skills they needed or the employer didn't know how to accommodate. And so there is a lot of fear of getting fired. And we hear that a lot during the first day or first week for any given intern. If they make a mistake or spill something, there's that fear of, in fact, one intern, he's hilarious. He's just wise beyond his years. He was born at the wrong time. So he's really funny in the way that he says things, but he made a mistake and said, okay, does this mean you're going to give me the pink slip? I'm thinking, no, the pink slip. I haven't heard that and I can't even remember when. So there's a lot of fear of termination, but we reiterate from the beginning that this is a place where interns don't need to know how to do everything. That's our job. We are here to teach them all of the core employment skills. And we act as a bridge, essentially. There are very talented and gifted autistic and other individuals with other neurodiversities who have the skills, but we know from statistics that individuals with autism are either unemployed, a majority are unemployed or underemployed. And that's because employers who do mean well, maybe they do have an interest in hiring people with neurodiversities. They just don't know how to accommodate, how to make all of that work. So we're kind of that in-between place. Our interns complete an internship anywhere from 6 months to 1 year. It's entirely individualized, so it could be shorter, it could be longer based on their needs. And we teach them all of the core employment skills that they would need to work anywhere once they graduate from this experience. They are paid employees. That was definitely a shift for me, not the payment part, but they are employees of Texana, just like any other employee of Texana. They're not my clients, they're not my patients. And what that means is um, I I only know what they are willing to share with me. There's no formal assessment like you would typically see in any other ABA setting, if it's one-on-one therapy or social groups or through a clinic. There's an assessment period. There's lots of observation. There are reports. That doesn't happen here because they are employees and they choose to share things or they choose not to share things. And sometimes we discover things as they're going through the internship experience. Our interns work part-time, usually 2 to 3 days a week, and are with us 6 months to a year. Pictured here, I'm going to go through some storytelling. This is Amy. Wonderful story. She had never held a job. She came to us straight out of graduating high school, and she is now employed at a local coffee shop in the community, is super happy, and we're very proud of her. So in our internship, the employee makes the decision to join us. No one is forced to be here. They're not signing up for, a clinical therapy session, so it has to be their decision. They can leave at any time. And there are several things that kind of sets us apart from others that have helped us with our success in this model. We identify what they want to learn and play to their strengths. Behavior analysis is really good at that, finding what individuals are already good at, and we, capitalize on that. We've had to balance parent and caregiver input in this process. And I say that because, again, they're employees, they're they're not clients, so there isn't a formal assessment process. And sometimes parents are coming in with their loved one and have a certain view of what this internship is going to be like and what their child is going to be interested in. So the first couple of interviews that I had, the parents were allowed in, and I quickly learned that um, so parents indicated, maybe focus on this area in your cafe. They're going to be a fantastic dishwasher, or you know what, don't worry about the customer service piece. He or she's not ready for that. She's going to like to bake. So we got this input and they were never right. And so I started kicking parents out of the interview process and I said they are not allowed anymore. That individual will interview with me and me alone. And that's not to say parent input isn't important. Parents, those of you who are watching, you know your child better than anyone else. But if you've never seen them in an employment setting, then you're learning just as much as we are, right? And so we would hear input of, focus on washing dishes or focus on baking cookies. And then they would start day one and say, Miss Rany, I want to be a barista. I'm like, oh, well, then let's train you up to be a barista. So that is what we do at the cafe. We don't, to my next point there on the slide, we don't assume anything. We assume competence. We don't assume that our interns can't do something unless we have tried it and trained it. And then if it's not a strength or it's not a want, then we'll pivot. But we assume every one of our interns joining the team can serve in every single job role. So that means barista, cashier, cook, baker, dishwasher, cleaner, stocker, server. They learn every single role required in the cafe. That also means we assume competence with the things that are scary, like knives and ovens and stoves. We have all of that. We are a real restaurant. We are a restaurant open to the public. So, um, all of those areas are also trained, again, assuming competence until we see that that is not safe or an accommodation needs to be made. And they're happy. We're creating an environment where interns enjoy coming to work. They are happy. They walk in excited because they know we're safe. They know they're not going to fail, or even if they make a perceived mistake, that we are here to help them learn. So a few outcomes. This is last year's data because this year isn't completed yet. But this is data that is pretty consistent with all of the years that we've operated so far. We usually serve 14 to 15 individuals each year. So just to summarize last year's data, we had 14, 10 of them graduated, and 7 of them are in permanent employment. That is the whole purpose of our cafe, to help these individuals reach the skills they need to then secure a permanent job. So 7 were able to secure permanent employment and 3 went on to higher education. These 2 individuals pictured here, we are super proud of. The top corner, our intern Danielle, she so smart, so talented, but needed some assistance with interactions with coworkers and how her words could be hurtful sometimes, some attitude. But I have attitude and we all have things to work on. And so we worked with her and she is now employed by a local school district full time with benefits. That that makes it all worth it, right? On the bottom corner is Matthew, and he also works for a school district, different school district, full time with benefits in a school cafeteria. And similar to Danielle, very, very smart individual who was much of an introvert and shy and needed a confidence boost. He just didn't he didn't know what he was capable of. So he started with us and worked just 4 months. He's had the shortest duration of every intern so far. He only needed 4 months to get the confidence boost he needed to know that he, in fact, he could definitely be a valuable employee anywhere. So we're very proud of his success. Other industries that we've been able to secure our interns at, it's varied. Our goal is not, while we are a restaurant and coffee shop and bake shop, our intent is not to secure all of them employment at other restaurants. We're teaching transferable skills so that they can then take their skills onto any industry. So we have interns that are working at schools, at HEB, what else? Garden centers. We have two that work at a local dog grooming business down the road. So it's been a good mix of industries that they've landed at. So part of why we've been so successful is that, as I mentioned, we are a real restaurant. It's not a contrived setting. And so our individuals are able to learn the skills and practice them in a real life setting. So if they're a cashier, they are taking the order of an actual customer. As I said, many individuals who enter the cafe don't know that we're serving a special mission. So some can be impatient, they're hungry, they just want their food. And these are all real life experiences that they are coming into contact with. They're getting that exposure to learn from. And the research substantiates why that's so important as well. This is just one of those studies that demonstrates that when compared to a contrived setting or a simulation alone, when an individual has the opportunity to work in the actual job site, it's a lot more successful. So I would encourage you as parents, or if there are providers watching, access opportunities at a real job site, even if you're not a job coach or if you have any type of employment or vocational training you're working on, see if you can find partners. You'd be surprised how many different businesses would be willing to have you at their site if you just ask. So another piece of our magic is that what we're targeting as employment skills are generally what others would call soft skills. But really, those soft skills are the ones that are going to determine if an individual with a neurodiversity is going to get employed or not employed. So while yes, we're a restaurant and coffee shop and we train those skills, as a behavior analyst, we can, or even not a behavior analyst, we can teach individuals to build a sandwich. That's no problem. Or to learn how to use an espresso machine. That's the easy part. The real work and the meat of what we do is teaching these other critical skill areas, which are the soft skills, what others call soft skills. So things like being on time. That's really important. And for some individuals, that's really difficult to learn how to not just know what their schedule is, but to actually use it and enforce it and keep track of it. Honoring the dress code, following instructions. Following instructions is really big. You need to know that in any industry for an employer to know that you're dependable, you'll do the work, you're reliable, maintaining good hygiene. You need that in any industry. Super important. Not just asking for help, but also knowing when to ask for help. What's the timing of that? Accepting feedback from a supervisor is huge. That's a really big area we work on here at the cafe. Again, most of our interns have never held a job, so they don't know what that's like. So knowing to respond immediately, respond respectfully, what that actually looks like, responding to others, so your coworkers, your customers, not just hearing the information, but doing something with that information, and socializing with customers or socializing with coworkers. That's another really big skill area because that really sets individuals apart when they're in their respective jobs or industries, just knowing that they know what to do with downtime or they know what to do when they're on a scheduled break. What should that look like, sound like? All of those things are really, really important. Um, I think I'm running out of time, but a quick note on the picture up top. So I was sneaky and took that picture when they weren't looking, but I do have their permission to share this. But these are three of our interns who were just hanging out when there weren't any customers in, and they were having a conversation. And that's something that these three individuals did not have the skills. Well, I take that back. The female intern there, she's a talker, but the other ones did not have the skill set to just strike up a conversation with coworkers when there was downtime and or know how to keep that going and to have some reciprocity in that conversation of not just sharing what you did over your weekend, but you should probably also ask your coworkers what they did over their weekend. So all of those soft skills I just mentioned uh, are are aligned with what employers are looking for as well. So this is just a snapshot of the top 10 skill areas or qualities that employers are looking for according to Indeed.com. Indeed.com being one of the largest job hosting sites. So they come into contact with employers on a daily basis. Again, dedication, knowing that they can rely on the employee, that they're confident to do the work that they're assigned, that they're reliable, that they have teamwork skills, that they will socialize, that they're friendly and nice to be around, that they're self-aware, and that they have good communication skills. All of these slides can be shared later if anyone needs that later. So this is Lap, and he immigrated from Vietnam with his family prior to just months before he started with us. And he belongs to a wonderful faith community. And the special needs ministry at his church has a director, and she heard about Texana Cafe and thought he would be a wonderful match. And she accompanied him to his interview. And Lap didn't know a lot of English, but he knew some. And he came to us very nervous. This was still during the peak of COVID. He was wearing a mask, but I could see in his eyes he was very nervous, not sure about any of this, not excited at all. And I'll never forget before he left, he did appear to be a match. An offer was extended, and I looked at him and I said, "So, Lap, would you like to work here?" And with the little English he knew, he looked at me and he said, "Not really." So it took some coaxing on the drive home from his special needs ministry director, and she emailed later saying he absolutely accepts the job. He's nervous. Um, and it's because of a previous experience. He actually did gain employment soon after moving to this country. And the special needs director's husband went and dined at this restaurant as essentially a secret shopper. He didn't announce himself. He didn't say who he was. He didn't say that he knew Lap. And he just observed. And what he observed was really horrible. They treated Lap horribly. They told him he wasn't doing a good job, that, he's never, if he loses this job, he'll never get a job anywhere else. I mean, it was just horrible. So that was the trauma he was coming to us. So we had to work through all of that in addition to all the other job skills that we train here. But he became one of our best interns. So by the time he graduated, he was able to do every job role that we have here unsupervised. And the picture on the right there is where he works right now at a restaurant called Sushi Monster in the Houston area, and he is doing fantastic. And that, again, I'm describing our model and what we do, but this is all using the principles of behavior analysis. So when you have that anxiety, when you have that fear, we have strategies we use for rapport building and, really working through that to build confidence in individuals, and he's doing fantastic. We've learned that pay might not be the biggest motivator for individuals who gain employment, and that's okay. Every single parent I've ever worked with for over 20 years doing this has said the same thing, that when they die, they want their loved one to have a job, to have a friend, and to be happy. So we have found that in this employment experience, when you gain that, um, a lot of times that leads to the other two. So we create happy people. We want to see, kind of going back to what both Laura and Jessica described. Um, we want to, we ask, what is it that you want? What is it that you see for yourself? So some interns come to us that may not be looking 5 years down the road in terms of securing that next job, but they want to be happy in other ways. And so in the picture at the bottom, the gentleman on the far right, Billy, um, he's a very picky eater. And so there was a time I asked him, so um, you don't really like, you don't like any of our sandwiches and you don't like sweets. So what are you doing here? I phrased it differently, of course. And he said, I'm just happy I can help my mom out now. I can contribute to my household. Like I'm making money now and I can help pay for my things, her things, our things. And so um that that's important. We need to know the motivation of each of our individuals. I know we're running out of time, sorry, so I'm gonna skip and kind of to summarize, we have seen that when training these employment skills and getting our individuals to a point where they are an exceptional employee and make a great employee anywhere, that it transcends just our mission and that goal, that it really has an impact. It's a domino effect. It affects them in their home life with their family members. Many of our interns have made a friend for the first time, like a real friend that they will text, that they will meet with. And we started planning activities together. So the picture there is pretty recently when Thunderbolts came out. Many of our team members went out to go see it, and I didn't have to arrange the whole thing. Like, there were ideas and I just helped with communication, but like they're hanging out, they're real friends, and that is you can't put a price on that. Parents report a lot that they see an improvement in their loved one at home in terms of taking more responsibility, initiating things, and it's life-changing. So um, we don't have time to show this, but I know I sent the link to Adriana. Hopefully that can be dropped in the chat. This is a 4-minute clip, ABC 13, the ABC news affiliate here in Houston did a story on us a year ago. And so this is a really, they did such a good job summarizing what we do. And so I would encourage all of you to watch it or send it to your friends, or if you're trying to motivate others to create something like this, maybe send this to them. And it was also part of Localish, which is statewide, so it might have already aired in the cities that you're in. And I think that's it for me. So thank you.
Oh, this is so heartwarming, especially for me as a mom, like seeing these kids gaining confidence and just having such successful stories. It's amazing. Like that, I can listen to this all day. I can listen to like these stories all day. I really appreciate you sharing the list for soft skills. I was looking at them, and some of those like parents could even start working as goals for their IEP in high school. Like this can be like we can start doing some things. And along those lines, I wanted to ask Jessica, 'cause I know they have a program where they also work on like pre-employment skills. Um, do you do you have any advice for parents, things that they can do at home, or visuals, things that they can use as tools for their kids at home?
Yeah, tools from what I'm hearing, tools to help them
Yeah.
with independent skills. And
Yes, many times parents don't have access, I mean, to these amazing programs, right? Like we're unfortunately we don't have a Texana cafe in every corner, which we probably need at this point. We need so many more resources like this. But what can we do if we don't have the resource, or while we're waiting, we're in a waiting list? What can we do at home?
yeah, absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind is in the slide, there is a book called Preparing for Life. I think it's like maybe $17 or something. There's a couple of books that have very easy kind of already pre-made like task analysis, what Laura was talking about, or like hygiene, how to like deal with hygiene, how to, um, brush your teeth with like videos. And so that book is a great resource. It gives you a step by step. You can just read it and it gives you step by step of what to do in the home and like how to, it provides activities and things like that as well. There's also another book I forgot. It was like How to Take Care of Myself, something like that. It's like a green book and it has like literally every um, daily living skill you can work on in home. And it's easy to read and follow with pictures, depending on if you want pictures or um, a list of words of specifics of how to do that. And so it's super easy to implement. And use it, utilizing visuals sometimes helps with certain people. Reward systems are helpful too, especially for those that aren't not intrinsically motivated. Um, and that could help as well, like having some kind of visual or some reward system in place when utilizing those books.
Thank you. I took notes myself for my for my son too about the book.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll send you those. I'll email them to you.
Perfect. Yeah, we can share it with everybody. One question for Dr. Lara is that what can we do when our teenagers, our adults don't want any therapy? Like they refuse to receive therapy, or also if you want to talk a little bit about special circumstances where like we have to adapt the programs for depression or anxiety that are more common at these uh, stages in life.
Absolutely. I was actually thinking of this while Rany was talking as well, because talking about that autonomy piece and letting individuals have a say. That's a big part of being a teen and an adult is having a say, but it doesn't also mean that you always can only do exactly what you want. And I think it's finding that balance. All humans, I would say, do things we don't want to do sometimes because that's part of something we need for a different reason. So I think it's that. I think respecting to some level the individual if they don't want ABA, maybe having those conversations about in which context would they like support. I think sometimes ABA can also be really beneficial in the people that surround that person. So if the person themselves is unwilling to participate, maybe the parents could do parent training, or if they're in an employment setting, they could do job training so that the individuals that they're already working with and already have a relationship with can learn some of those same strategies to incorporate with that individual without it having to be in ABA therapy specifically. But I would also say our field is used to this. We're focused on relationship building. To me, it's a red flag if someone doesn't like ABA. They may not like every single thing they're asked to work on or do, but as a whole, they should not, be avoiding that service. It should be something that they are motivated by. They should have a relationship with the person that they're working with that is a positive working relationship. And it does look different in those teen and adult years. With cases that have maybe a comorbid depression, anxiety, it is a lot of baby steps. And we do, Rany talked about that a little bit as well. We have approaches for treating those types of challenges. So a lot of times it might be something like desensitization. We did have a client recently that was unwilling to leave the house or do anything, did not want any supports from anyone. Trying to build a relationship with her was very, very difficult. And it was starting with just her tolerating us being around. Like we weren't asking her to do anything yet. It was really just the baby steps of like, we're coming into her home and she's tolerating our presence. And we're working on those ways to build a relationship first, because without that relationship, there isn't going to be that progress. So I do think some of those things are important to keep in mind. But it does depend. I think having those conversations with the individual too, like what do they want? And if they need support in getting there, having that real conversation of what kind of supports would assist them in that journey. And a lot of times ABA can play a role in that. I don't know if y'all have thoughts to add from your experiences.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
think
agree.
you nicely summed that up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think collaborating too with like their other providers too, like a lot of in a lot of situations, I guess in privileged situations, a lot of these clients or people with disabilities have multiple um, supports, you know, whether it's like from school, from speech, maybe their psychiatrist, their primary doctor. And so I think it's very helpful if they already have something in place or someone who's already supporting them in some aspect, collaborating with them so it could be a team approach and getting some information from them. I think that's all that helps as well.
And sometimes it helps to do some goal planning so they see the big picture. It's hard for some individuals to see what step they just want the last step, the end goal, but they don't know what steps are required to get there. So we've definitely done that with some of the interns who were hesitant, or maybe they were already on our team and wanted to advance to a different role. To ask, so what do you want? Okay. I s okay. And you don't like doing XYZ. Well, you've got to do XYZ to get to level two. And so it's just real life conversation, just like we have to do. And as behavior analysts, there are many phases to our education and getting a degree and passing a board exam. So we don't like it. We have to do it.
Yeah, that's right. It's uh, also, also was thinking like finding like what is their motivation, right? Like maybe they do have a goal. Sometimes it's not the same as their parents, right? It may be like they're thinking about dating, or like, so maybe that would be a reason for them to work on hygiene, or like like just try to find what would be a good motivation. But it's a lot of brainstorming, I think, and it's great that we have you guys are professionals that can work with this. We had comments uh, about funding. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add for funding. We are also running out of time. I don't know if you how are you doing with time, but I also don't want to like take a lot of your time. We are over one already. But I don't know if any of you just wanted to mention anything else about funding. And the other thing that was the other question we had was about safety against scams. As kids grow and get their independence and like they're out in the community now, thanks to these programs, like is there anything that we can do for to prevent? Like, is there anything that ABA does to help them just be safe? I don't know.
A lot that we do is, really working on those skills in the community. So once we teach, and with social skills specifically, like within the group setting, like we're teaching a lot of like video modeling and um, like role playing, specific structure teaching. And so once that's all kind of learned within that setting, our goal is, yeah, let's go see what it looks like in the community. And once there, how can we teach them? Or do we see those skills generalized? But I think in the community is helpful in identifying what are those skills that are needed to advocate and, continue collaboration with parents and conversations and teaching. But I think that's really helpful.
I think scams are really hard because they are getting really good. A lot of people fall for scams. This is not just the autism population. And I think one potential tool there is teaching a system for checking where maybe you're teaching the system to the individual that when they receive an email or a text, here are the questions I can ask. And if I don't know these answers, this is the person I check with, so that there is that accountability where they have a trusted individual that they can run that by when they're unsure, but also teaching them how to identify, like, maybe I am unsure and I should ask this person. So it can be just teaching a system of how to get support and how to identify you might even need support in that context, because that is something like, I mean, my parents just fell for a scam and we we got them out of it. But like it is something that, especially with AI, it's getting so good that you really it is a challenge, I would say.
I like it. I like that. I was even thinking about like us individually, like falling for scams, or like what causes us to like either go through the scam or seek out help. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, the other day I got like a phishing email. And so like still I'm like I forwarded to my office manager. I was like, what is this? Is this real or not? Like I need perspective here in identifying that. So yeah, that's very tricky.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for your insight. And we have an information on referrals for families if they want list of providers. We got a couple of comments where like they want providers that take Medicaid for these services. So feel free to email us. The information is in the chat. I don't know. Oh, we also got another comment from actually an employee. So we'll contact with you, Ronnie, to see if that's something that they could do a partnership or something. Because it's been very inspiring to hear these stories, and I feel like everybody in the community gets inspired to want to be part of those processes. Thank you so much. I don't know if anybody has some last words that they want to say before we end this live. I appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate everybody that stayed. And this is gonna be on Facebook for the next month, and then we're gonna move it to our YouTube account. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining.
All right, great. Bye.